Hey guys, it's your boy Wolfie. I'm here to try to increase your DPS as a Demon Hunter by correcting a lot of the misinformation that you can find online. There isn't a lot of Demon Hunter theory crafters out there because we're bottom of the pack. And so it's pretty hard to come by information for those who actually do enjoy the class. So I'm going to do the hard work for you and put it all in a single video and hope it helps you guys. Alright, so let's go into the first way to increase your DPS that has absolutely nothing to do with your skill. You probably have the wrong enchants. Yay! So apparently you're supposed to have Eternal Skirmish on your chest piece instead of 30 stats. It's apparently a 20 to 30 DPS increase, and in this expansion, that is huge. Thank me later. Next, you probably have the wrong enchants on your weapons. Yeah! For the whole expansion, I've been using Celestial Guidance and Light Force. Apparently you're supposed to use Sinful Revelation and Celestial Guidance. Apparently, Sinful Revelation has a much higher uptime than the Sims are saying. I don't know if it's a bug or whatever it may be, but it's higher DPS. But when you do it and you use raid bots or whatever, it's gonna show like a 200 DPS decrease. The Sims are wrong in this scenario. This is more DPS. The way I figured this out is by going on Warcraft logs and literally looking at most of the top Demon Hunter DPS. And this is something that I'm seeing over and over and over and over again. The top few are using the Sinful Revelation, and a little bit behind are using the other stuff. Now, apparently there's some fights where Light Force is better than Sinful and some AoE packs, but most of us don't have the money to do that, and the top parsing DPS really aren't changing their stuff anyway. So from what I understand, Sinful is just better. And the way you can do and check this out for future reference, so you don't have to rely on my videos, is you just go on Warcraft logs, right? Come over here, go to rankings. Now, we just changed the class because anything that's not a Demon Hunter is just completely irrelevant. Nobody else has wings, they suck. You can go to any one of these. Let's just go to Shriek Wing. It's a single target fight, right? Now, Sinful Revelation is a debuff, not a buff. So you have to go to debuffs, but you also have to click on enemies. Now, let's swap it over to only be Demon Hunter that we're looking at, and boom. Sinful Revelation has a 33% uptime, almost 34. That's huge on Shriek Wing, especially because we're not attacking the boss the whole time. There's a lot of downtime, etc. So this is actually a very high uptime for a fight. This is really good. And you can do this for anybody. Let's go back. Let's go look at someone else. Let's go look at Huntsman, right? Because we're on Huntsman the whole entire time, right? Let's look at this guy. Sorry, he's got the Chinese letters, but it's okay. We got this. So we're gonna go for enemies again. It's a debuff. We're gonna go for change of sources, so we're gonna only be the Demon Hunter. And boom, all of a sudden it's almost a 40% uptime. That's massive. Sinful Revelation increases your damage by 6%. If that happens during your burst windows, you're gonna see huge damage increase. So use Sinful Revelation. It's actually really good. The Sims are wrong. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. That's the first way to increase your DPS. Next thing to increase your DPS. It's gonna take a little bit of skill, but it's mainly knowledge. Don't really worry about it, right? Cool. So let's talk about your talents a little more. Obviously, this is your single target build when you're using Chaos Theory. When there's nothing else to hit, this is the build you use. It's really good, it's really strong, it's only for single target. The moment you add one more target, this build is no longer the best build for you to use, all right? Cool. For anyone who's asking when you're supposed to use Blade Dance in this build, is every time it's off cooldown, except when I-Beam is coming off cooldown, and you gotta make sure that Blade Dance and I-Beam align because you don't have enough time to use a second Blade Dance in your demonic window unless you use your Blade Dance as your first ability outside of I-Beam. That's how that works. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Once you add one more target, aka Mythic Plus, you always want to take Glaive Tempest. Unless there's certain bosses that are going to get kited out of your Glaive Tempest. There's not many, but there are some. In those kind of situations, you kind of just want to run Trail of Ruin, but that doesn't really happen very often. You don't got to worry about that. Outside of that, for clearing trash packs and everything, Glaive Tempest is just the best. Anytime you add an extra minion, Glaive Tempest just gets better. Yeah, you're probably most likely the AoE of the group if you're going into a Mythic Plus. So even if the bosses do get kited out, you kind of just want to use Glaive Tempest anyway. It'll make the run faster. It's also not that much worse than single target. So if you just like using this, by all means, just use it anyway. All right. Outside of that, I now have the AoE Legendary and have more experience with it. And if you're using the AoE Legendary, your build is going to change a little bit, right? It's going to look like this. Obviously, again, these are just optional. You use whatever one you like the most or whatever the fight calls for. In this situation, I get this question a lot. Even I didn't know this answer for a while. But when do I Blade Dance? Do I ever Blade Dance? Do I only Chaos Strike? No, you do not. Apparently, when you're in meta, you can Death Sweep for 2 targets or more, and it's more DPS than just using Chaos Strike. If you're out of meta, you need 3 targets or more to justify using Blade Dance with this build. So you still actually do get to use Blade Dance, which is actually like a godsend for me. I like pressing a little more buttons here and there than what this build allows. But that's good news. So yes, you are using more than just Chaos Strike and I-Beam in this build. I'm glad I could have the answer for you guys. Glaive Tempest is dropped no matter what, single target or AoE. You want that on cooldown. It does a lot of damage. Make sure you're positioning it well. This build is honestly easier than the other build, but yeah, this is solid, and hope that answers questions for people. Maybe you guys can do better on the AoE fights. I know I'm going to be doing better on the AoE fights next time after I figure this out. By the way, I figured this out last night. Good timing, right? Cool. All right, so that's an answer to your question for both legendaries, which ones you should be using. I have not used Fell Bombardment yet. I don't think it's really good right now because it just falls off too hard in single target. That's my only opinion on it. All right, while we're still on the topic of pretty much talking about optimizing your DPS through talents and your abilities, make sure you're saving your cooldowns for AoE phases and extra damage phases. I see a lot of people not doing this, and this is probably hurting your DPS. If you know ads are coming in the next like 10 seconds, don't use your I-Beam. Save it until the ads come out. Your DPS will thank you. Yeah, learn to fight, learn how fast your raid team is killing it, learn when you can meta and get the most damage out of it, learn when you can second meta and get the most damage out of it. Just learn the fights and plan your cooldowns accordingly. I mean, that comes with all classes. I shouldn't have to say it, but I hope you guys do it anyway. Your Warcraft logs will thank you. All right, so we've gone over the other stuff. We've also shown you how to look at Warcraft logs. I want to introduce you to this website that I use a lot called Blood Mallet. Now, it sims individual things for classes. It tells you literally the most information you can get out of everything without directly simming your character. It's very useful, and it helps you learn and choose what you want to go for, right? It'll show you even which covenant does the most DPS for you in single target and in AoE. It'll also show you what they're like in the later sections. So this is 24 renown. This is the DPS this week. And then if you go all the way down to 35, you can see what your DPS will be at max. It'll show you which ones are best, again, in AoE and in single target. It's fantastic. It's a very useful tool. This works for every class. It'll also like sim your legendaries. It'll sim your races for you. It'll sim your secondary distributions for you. It has your soul binds on here, which is what we just looked at. Your talents, which ones have more DPS. It takes a little longer to load this one, so we're just gonna skip by this, right? This one's a little hard to read too. It'll show you your trinkets, which eye level does more DPS. As you can see, file is ridiculous. A 226 memory of past sins is actually a lot better than a 213, obviously. It'll show you which ones you want. This is exactly how you should be looking for things. That's how you target what trinkets you want, etc. So this is a really like nice little tool that you can use that'll answer a lot of the questions for you on which trinkets and stuff you should go for. So use this website as much as you possibly can when you want to figure out what items you should use. If you don't have time to sim, this will usually give you the correct information for the most part, outside of the sims being wrong. Which is happening a little more often than I would like to say. Again, that is bloodmallet.com, and you can use that for any class. All right, so we're going over covenants one more time. I got a lot of questions about it. I personally think that Night Fae is just the best by far when it comes to covenants. It's got the best ability. The problem with Venthyr is that it's tied to your meta, and your meta isn't going to be usable in every single pack in a Mythic Plus. It's not going to be usable in every single AoE situation in a raid. It's just not very practical. It looks beautiful on Sims, but that's not how fights always happen. Venthyr just has more applications. Kyrian is by far the best in AoE, but it's terrible in single target. It's just horrendous in single target. So I've just come to the conclusion that Night Fae is the best overall. It's the best single target once we get to Renown 30. It's really close as it is right now. And it's decently close to Kyrian in the AoE. So personally, just think it's the best. You probably should go Night Fae. Kyrian if you're only tanking, if you're doing Vengeance and Havoc at the same time. Again, Night Fae is also the best because Night Fae has a secondary part on it. It is also a defensive tool. It gives you 20% lifesteal. It's fantastic. It can be used to keep you alive when you're in Havoc. It can be used to keep you alive when you're in Vengeance. It's a really good ability. Trust me, you should use it. That being said, if you really like the aesthetic of Venthyr or Kyrian, just play that. I'm not trying to discourage you from enjoying your class. Play whatever you want at the end of the day. I'm just trying to tell you what's the highest DPS from my experience, and I'm just trying to tell you guys for the sweaty tryhard nerds. If you're not a sweaty tryhard neckbeard nerd, don't worry about it. And have a good time. I hope this video helped you. I hope you did this has shined some light for you. Just because I shit on simulations and sims and all this does not mean do not use raid bots to find out what your best stat weights are, because that seems to be accurate. And if you got an item and if it's an increase or not, all that stuff still works. Make sure you still have the simulation crafting downloaded on your game, and you can do /simc and check your gear on raid bots, etc. It does still help. Just remember that when you swap over to Sinful, your DPS is going to drop. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you're wondering what my opinion is on Demon Hunters right now overall, I think we're pretty good. We're bottom of the barrel, but we're still useful. We're good in Mythic Plus. We're pretty decent in PvP. Rating, we're kind of like on the bottom of the barrel. We need buffs, and I hope Blizzard does a pass before the next raid tier or before the next Mythic raid tier, but we're not useless. The sky isn't falling yet. Hold on, brothers, we got this, and sisters. I didn't forget about y'all. We're just hoping. I'm honestly still having fun, and I'm still doing good enough DPS to be kept in the raid. I haven't been benched yet, so there's hope. There's hope. Keep your head up, boys. Hopefully they'll buff us. That's how I feel about our position right now. We're all bottom of the barrel, but we still have our uses. You can still be brought to raids, and you can still do all the Mythic Pluses regardless of what people tell you that you can and can't do. I've done them. I'll release some videos to prove them. All right, guys, that's it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button on the bottom. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, smash that like button, and drop a comment. I try to respond as much as possible. I don't get to every one of them, obviously. Just is what it is. I'm only human. And if you guys would like a more direct response, a more instant response, feel free to stop by my stream. I stream between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern, 6 days a week. Or you can follow me on Twitter or whatever it is and at me on there. That all works. It should all pop up on the stream. But thank you guys so much. You guys have been awesome. I hope you guys have a good day. And hope everybody's DPS gets increased.